With the NBA season finished and the off-season getting fully underway now, we will be shifting our focus over to the NBA draft, which is actually only a week away. We've got plenty of draft-related content coming up for you over the coming days, and then even more coming after the draft goes down. But to start things off, I figured it would be good for everyone to get to know some of the players at the top of the draft, which brings us to the topic of today's video. Today, we'll be going through some of the biggest names in the 2021 NBA draft, and we'll be comparing them to the players that they resemble the most in the NBA. Now, player comparisons don't necessarily mean that they will be as good as the players they're compared to, it just means that in terms of the way they play, they have similar tendencies. Now, before we start though, it turns out about 61% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. We'll start things off with the player deemed by most to be the consensus #1 prospect, being Cade Cunningham, and the player I think is a pretty good comparison for him at the NBA level is Penny Hardaway. Hardaway is more of a throwback player as a comparison compared to the rest of the list, but Penny basically walked, so Cade Cunningham could run. Penny was a 6'7" point guard, and Cade is a 6'8" point guard, so they're both big for the position. They have a bit of craftiness to their games that allows them each to get to wherever they want on the floor, and they use their height to their advantage when it comes to playmaking, as they can see over the top of defenses better and possess premier passing talent to make plays for those around him. Cade also showed a much better scoring ability at the college level than was anticipated, and he doesn't need to be commanding the ball to be effective, as he's also a threat to score from all three levels and can be useful without the ball in his hands. Cade is an incredibly promising talent all around, and while Penny was a dynamic scoring guard in his day, Cade is probably a bit more pass first while still being able to score with the best of them. The next prospect we'll be discussing is Evan Mobley, and the player I see him playing like at the next level is Bam Adebayo. Mobley is by far the best big man in this year's draft, and a lot of the intrigue about him as a prospect stems from his versatility on defense. Not only is he an elite rim protector and shot blocker, but he's also incredibly mobile and can confidently switch out onto the perimeter and hold his own against ball handlers on the outside. In today's NBA, switchability is key, and Bam Adebayo is one of the best examples of big men that can do it all on defense. Bam has really emerged over the last 2 seasons as one of the best defensive players in the entire league, and like Mobley, it's because he can defend both inside and outside at an elite level. Plus, offensively, they also have similarities in the way they face up, work in the pick and roll, finish around the basket, and get out in transition. The next prospect we'll be discussing is Jalen Green, and the player he compares closest to at the next level is Zach Lavine. Green is the best scorer in the draft, he's an absolutely explosive athlete, and he's just fun to watch, so who better to compare him to than the guy that just averaged about 27 points per game on the season, and is a multiple-time dunk contest champion because of his out-of-the-world hops that Zach Lavine is. Now, Green isn't necessarily as bouncy as Lavine, but Lavine has been in a world of his own in that regard, so it is what it is. With that said though, Green shares a lot of Lavine's strengths, along with some of his weaknesses. Like Lavine, Green probably needs to improve his effort on the defensive end, and his shot selection can be a bit questionable at times, but when he heats up, there isn't a spot on the floor he can't confidently score from. The next player up we'll be discussing is Jalen Suggs, and the player he compares to at the next level is Jrue Holiday. Suggs and Holiday are both tough-nosed guards that can handle the duties of both the point guard and shooting guard roles. They're very strong defenders, and for the most part, they look to embrace whatever role their team needs from them for the sake of winning. Holiday's defense was vital to the Bucks championship this season, and despite his inconsistent scoring, he was still making plays for those around him and putting in objectively positive shifts despite his off-shooting nights. Suggs comes in as the same kind of player where he won't always be on shooting the ball, but he does all of the little things winning teams love, and he'll do whatever is asked of him. Plus, he's not afraid of the moment, and will continue to look to get to his spots even during off nights just like Holiday will. The next top prospect we'll be discussing is Scottie Barnes, and the player he compares to at the next level is Draymond Green. Barnes is basically the jack-of-all-trades prospect as a forward who you can run the offense through like a point guard, and then he's another top-tier defensive prospect who gives you all of the versatility and fight you want from a player who is 6'9". What NBA scouts will love is that he's bigger than Draymond in terms of size and strength, and their playstyles match up perfectly. He doesn't need the ball to be effective, they're both terrific passers, they bring it on defense, and admittedly, they're both inconsistent scorers, so even the weaknesses stack up here. The next prospect we'll be discussing is Jonathan Kuminga, and the player he compares to at the next level is Jaylen Brown. When Brown came out of college, he was a strong, big-bodied wing player who had tons of raw potential, but still had a hard work to do to iron out his offensive game, and then he emerged as a stud two-way all-star, and Kuminga is in a very similar boat right now as a prospect. Kuminga has all of the physical tools to dominate both sides of the ball at the next level. He showed tons of glimpses of greatness in the G League, but he definitely has a long way to go before he starts doing it consistently. Many believe Kuminga could have the highest ceiling in the entire draft, but he's also the furthest away from that ceiling right now of all of the top prospects, which poses the risk-reward situation that comes with taking him. The next top prospect we'll be discussing is James Bouknight, and the player he compares to at the next level is Jordan Clarkson. Clarkson is a scoring guard who brings instant offense off the bench, and this year, he took home the 6th Man of the Year award, and in the NBA, Bouknight can be that exact kind of impact player. He's an explosive scorer who can heat up and get buckets in a hurry, and his ability to score the ball confidently in bunches is where the majority of his value lies. His efficiency may waver, he'll go through cold stretches, but he'll also go through really hot stretches as well, and that inconsistency and potential brings similarities to both the strengths and the weaknesses of a player like Jordan Clarkson. The next prospect we'll be discussing is Davion Mitchell, and the player he compares to at the next level is Norman Powell. Norman Powell brings explosiveness around the basket, a nice pull-up jumper, and every year he's gotten better and better. Mitchell is in the same boat before even getting to the league because his improvement was immense from last season to this season at Baylor, and specifically on the offensive end, his shooting has come a long way. The one thing I will say is that Mitchell is a far better defensive prospect, so this comparison really only works for the offensive side of the ball, but defensively, Mitchell is a monster. He very well may be the best perimeter defender in the draft. He hounds his matchups, and he makes life incredibly difficult for any ball handler. And finally, the last prospect we'll be discussing in today's video is Moses Moody, and the player he compares to at the next level is Mikal Bridges. Moody is the premier 3-and-D prospect of the draft, and he uses his long wingspan and strong frame to hold his own against any matchup you throw at him. Offensively, he does a very good job spacing the floor as a spot-up shooter, but he's also shown a promising ability to create a bit for himself off the dribble, and like we just saw from Mikal Bridges in the playoffs this year, he's more than just a spot-up shooter as well. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below who you think these players compare to at the NBA level. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.